Today we're going to do a watercolor painting demonstration, and I call it Stormy Skies. And there's a local photograph I took this last weekend, and look at the beautiful sky clouds. We're going to talk about how to paint the sky colors, then we'll go into the cloud patterns and show how to paint those silver linings, and then finally we'll put those rays of light that will give it an attractive display. Hi, this is Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my classroom. Today I'm broadcasting live from Chesapeake, Virginia to throughout the U.S. and all around the world. And I'm in my studio today with my wife, Gloria.
Hello.
And she'll be monitoring the broadcast and also checking the chat room. The chat room's live, so you can leave a comment or give me a question during the broadcast, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I appreciate that. For those of you looking in for the first time, I'd appreciate you subscribing to my YouTube channel, also to Facebook, and leave me a comment and give me a thumbs up. It helps my rating. I really appreciate that. Now today I'm going to be doing Stormy Skies. Last weekend I was out outdoor painting, and the sky was very cloudy, and it hadn't rained, but the sky was really stormy. So I took several pictures of it, and I said, well, I'm going to try to paint that and also be a great demonstration. So that's what I'm going to do today. Let me take you over to my painting table, and I'm going to show you, first of all, that's the reference photograph. And that's the scene I saw, and that's the scene I looked at as I saw that. You can see the clouds. We're going to go over. It looks complicated, and this is a complicated subject in order to paint, but I've broken it down into 3 steps, and I'll show you each one of the steps to very carefully go through how you would paint a scene like this, and so we'll try that. So now let me go take you to my painting table. So that's the reference photograph. Now my painting table, look over here. Before we get started, let me show you a couple of things here that are kind of interesting. This is EverettsWatercolors.com is where you're going to find my art supplies, my classroom videos, and fun with watercolors. Now, this is the QR code that takes you there. Now, the QR code, you just take your cell phone, and you go to your camera, and you zero in on that. You focus in on that QR code, and it takes you right to the my Facebook page, right to my website page. And there's a little glare. I can see that. There you can see up here in the corner. There's the live classroom videos, Everett's watercolor classes, my supply page, and so forth. So that's how you would find me, right there. So that's how easy it is to get in. If you have you should have a Facebook app on your cell phone, and then from there you can go right to it. Now also, down here on the Facebook group, which is my Everett's Watercolors art group, it's the same thing. Just go in with a camera. You focus in, and now here, you use the Facebook app. It'll say, you should have a Facebook app on your cell phone, and just click that little dude. Open that up, and that'll take you to my Everett's Watercolors art group. So those are the 2 links you need in order to do today's painting. Let's shut that down. So what you can do there is you can paint along with me, do this painting, and you can download the sketch and download the photograph. The photograph I just showed you, the reference photograph, just a few moments ago. Here I did a sketch of that particular photo. So this would be my design sketch. So this is the cloudy skies drawing. And it gives you the general shapes of the clouds and where the skies will come in. That's what I'll get around to today. So this is my my reference photograph, and also this is my my painting plan, or my sketch. Now what I did is I took this sketch and I drew it up on another piece of paper, and I did a quick value study, which is always a good idea. Once you do a painting, do a value study to show where your lights and darks are going to be. And you can see the dark areas of the sky, or these are the clouds, the dark areas of the clouds. There are some medium value for the sky colors, and there'll be a darker background here for the landscape. I changed the landscape a little bit from the photograph, simplified it a little bit. So I did a value study to show the cloud formation and where the sky is. So that's going to be my painting plan. Let me put this aside. So the photograph and the drawing are available on my website. And what I did here also is I did a little painting mixing exercise. And what I did here, I'm going to use, actually, I'm going to use 3 blues in the painting. This is Cerulean blue, which is up here on the top of my palette left. And I'm going to use, this is Cobalt blue, which is like a medium color. And then there's this Ultramarine blue. These 2 right here in a row. Now down here, I've got a little bit of Payne's gray also to make it dark. So I'm using 3 blues and some Payne's gray to make the sky color. And the clouds, I've also done some mixtures here, which I'll go through with the mixtures of how to make a light and a medium and a dark gray. And so the colors I'm using is a little bit of Quinancridone violet, which is right here in the palette. A little bit of this is the blues now. Here I'm showing Cobalt blue, a little bit of burnt sienna to mix it up, and then a little bit of possibly a little bit of Payne's gray to give you a darker color. Now you notice if you go to the color wheel, any 3 colors in the primary range will give you a gray. So here's a little bit of red, a little bit of blue, and this has also got a little bit of yellow in it. Okay. Burnt sienna's got a little bit of orange or yellow in it. So you got your yellow, your blue, and your red, and this will give you a gray color. So different combinations of this will give you lights and darks. Okay, I'll be talking about mixes as I go along here in the paint. Very important. Now the brushes I'm using, this is a natural hair brush. This is a silver brush, 3/4 inch flat, and I'll show you why I use the natural brushes. I've also got a 1/2 inch flat silver brush. These are 2 brushes I'll be using today. Silver brush, natural hair. They're Red Sable brushes. They're very nice. I'm going to be using also the Holbein 1/2 inch synthetic brush. I'll show you why I use that. And I'm also using the natural hair quill. Now all these items are on my website on everettswatercolors.com. I'm going to show you in my demonstration here why I use these particular brushes. So the first thing I'm going to do, this is my drawing. This is on 140-pound Gemini watercolor paper. And it measures 15 inches wide and 11 inches high, which is a 1/4 sheet of watercolor paper. Okay, and I've put the drawing here on I put the drawing of the drawing I showed you originally. I transferred the drawing here to my watercolor paper. Okay, now first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to mix up some, I'm going to paint, the first step 1, I'm going to paint the sky color. And what I'm going to start with, I'm going to start up here in the sky area. I'm going to do, and what I can do, let me put, I got, okay. Got a photograph here of the picture of the painting. So I'll leave that up there for a moment while I'm doing the mixes. So up here in the top left, of the picture is where I'm going to start first. So I'm going to use a little bit of Cerulean blue. My Cerulean blue's over here. Okay. All right, let me take that photograph off for a second. I'll take you back to the main table. Also, trying to show you, I can show you the photograph as I go along. But right now, I'm mixing up cerulean blue. That's going to be my light color. I'm going to start over here in the left side. So the sky itself is this section right in here. So, and the reason I use the natural hair brush is when I do the painting, I can use the edges of the brush, and the edges, the parts of the brush that are easy, the hairs of the brush are very flexible, so that makes it easy to get a nice rough edge. Where the synthetic brush is a little stiffer, and it doesn't give you the quality of the edge that I'm looking for here. So I'm using a natural hair brush to do that. So up here in the left-hand corner, I'm using the lighter color. Yeah, I point out that you can use any brush you have, but I'm showing you why I'm using my natural hair brushes, because they have a different quality of brush strokes that I can use. So I'm taking advantage of the natural hair. But what you want to do is, as you paint around the shape here, you want to leave some irregular edges. You don't want to have all smooth edges. You want to have irregular, because the cloud's going to have edges to it. And I'm going to come down here with my cerulean blue, loading up the brush. And I'm going to leave lots of white paper here, because in this particular painting, the sun was behind the cloud. So what we're going to have is what we call the classical silver lining. The silver line is going to be the white part of the cloud showing behind the darks. And so we're going to have a nice silver lining on this particular painting. So now I'm coming into a little tighter area, so I'm using just the corner of the brush, but you can see here I'm getting a lot more control over giving me a nice rough edge. So I don't want it to be an even smooth application. I want to have a little rough edge. So I'm really controlling the edges here with this particular brush.
We have a question.
Okay.
Is it better to try to go by the reference, or should you try to do some light lines to follow along?
Well, the reference gives you the reference. If you look at the reference and you look at my drawing, they're very similar, except what I simplified some of the shapes. So you don't have to don't follow anything exactly as it is. Just do the best you can. Now up here, I'm using cobalt blue. Now I'm going to a darker blue. If you'll look at the colors, I got a microphone in front of me and so forth, everything. So let me take a little test sheet here. I'll test the colors out. That's my cobalt blue. Rinse out the brush, and I look at cerulean blue. You can see there's quite a difference here in the blues. Cerulean is a much lighter value, and cobalt blue is a much darker value. So that's kind of a middle value. So I'm going to start in the next section here, up the top. I'm going to start in with my cobalt blue. It's a little bit darker blue. Again, I'm using the edge of the brush again to give me that rough edge. And I think you'll see when I put the darks into the cloud, you'll start seeing why this is so important, is to get a nice edge on this cloud. You don't want to have a smooth edge. You want to have a rough, irregular, artistic edge. And if you look at the photograph and you look at the sketch, you'll see that I've made a real concerted effort there to keep those edges very rough. Not they're defined, but they're also irregular. And the shape is irregular. I don't want to have a round shape or a square shape. I want to have an irregular shape, because this cloud was very prominent over the top of the sky. All right, now I'm putting a little more. I'm adding a little more pigment here, because I want this blue now to come out a little bit darker than that cerulean blue. And that does necessary. It's just my option to do that. Okay, now I'm gonna mix up some more blue now, more cobalt blue, some more pigment here in my brush. And I'm gonna get this section over here, and if you look at the photograph, And I'll show the photograph in a few minutes here. If we look at the photograph, you'll see, once I finish this part here, I'll bring the photograph up and we'll talk about the sky colors. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm getting the sky shapes in. So that's step one. And I'm also working on the shape of those sky shapes. The negative, I'm painting negative shape around the cloud right now. I'm painting negative shapes here with the sky. So I'm painting around the cloud the shape. So this is called negative painting. It gives me a nice irregular shape, and this will make more sense as we get a little bit further along in the painting. Okay, so that's the top half. And right down here, I've also got a couple little sections here I want to put in. There's a little bit of blue patch here, so I'm going to stick that in. Again, a nice irregular shape. I'm not going to overdo this. I just want to have a few areas that I don't want to have all cloud and no sky popping through. So I'm going to have a little bit of cloud formation here. Maybe I'll put a little bit up in here, just a little touch. Okay, so that'll finish off my cobalt blue patches. Okay. And I can put a little bit over here. I don't want to get too carried away with this. Okay, let's take a look at the photograph. I'm going to put the photograph back up. Now you can see there, up in the upper left-hand corner, I'm pointing up there, upper left-hand corner, and then you see upper right-hand corner. I've done those two corners and a little bit of the top portion. You can see the blue sky, the blue patches of blue sky up in the left corner, on the right corner, and at the very top. Okay, now I'm going to move down into the bottom now, at the bottom of the paint. Now forget those trees and so forth. I'm going to have a different background there of my particular painting. But down below at the bottom portion of the sky is very dark, so I'm going to have a dark blue down here at the bottom of the cloud. That's going to be my next step. Let me go back, take this off. I'm going to take you back to the painting table again. Okay, now I'm going to mix up a dark blue. So I'm going to use a little bit of ultramarine now. Ultramarine is my dark. Now go back to my colors. We'll look at that little color sketch here. So I got my test paper. And you can see here that again the ultramarine blue is even darker. And I'm also going to touch that up with a little bit of Payne's gray. So you can see that I can get a real dark mix there with adding a little bit of Payne's gray to ultramarine blue. That's how I'll get a dark blue. Okay. So I'm using a third blue now. I'm going to be working down here on the bottom portion of the painting. So I'll start out with, I don't want to put the Payne's gray in there right away. I'll start out with the ultramarine blue. And I'll come across here at the very bottom here. So I don't want to go completely dark exactly yet. But I'm going to put some dark blue areas in here. Because some of the clouds are going to go over top of this blue sky anyway. So I'm just putting in some a blue color down here to get me started on that color. So I'm mixing a little bit of right now just ultramarine blue right there going across. I will be putting a little bit of darker value on top of that. Maybe a little bit of Payne's gray. So now I'm taking a little bit of Payne's gray now, adding it to the mix to make it a little bit darker. Because this part of the sky is in shadow. It's in shadows, way below. It's on right just above the horizon line, and there's a lot of clouds back there that in the sky that is casting shadows on the ground and also up in the sky. It's a very dark area. Okay, that's now that's my third blue now. I've got and I'll make a little bit of Payne's gray with that just to get some dark areas. And I'll put a little bit of Payne's gray, not too much right now, because Payne's gray will be part of the cloud mass too. But I want some Payne's gray in there because Payne's gray is also going to be a part of the cloud. So that makes I want the cloud colors and the sky colors to kind of blend together in a way. So there's some commonality of the colors. Okay, so step one is to get the blue in. Use cerulean blue over here. Up here, I started putting cobalt blue at the top, cobalt blue over in the right corner, and I came down here with ultramarine blue with a little touch of Payne's gray to make it nice and dark. Okay, now that's going to keep drying, so we don't worry about that. So what I'm going to do now is start mixing up some grays. My first gray is going to be a light gray, and I'm going to take the cerulean blue, and I'm going to mix a little bit of yellow ochre in with that cerulean, and then just a touch of pyro red, and that's going to give me a light gray, a very light gray, and that may not be dark enough. So let's test it out here. It's going to give me a very, very light gray. Okay, and I can always change. I want to put it a little bit on the blue side, and that's how you can adjust a little bit. So that's a light color. It's got too much blue. I'm gonna move on to my next blue, my next gray. I'm gonna use a little bit of cobalt blue. And I'm going to mix a little bit of burnt sienna in with that. A little bit of burnt sienna in with a cobalt blue. And then a touch of quinacridone violet. Just a touch of quinacridone violet. That's that red, yellow, and blue combination I'm talking about. Just a touch. Now I'm using quite a bit of this because I got to cover a large area. So I'm making a nice big batch of this gray. Mixing the cobalt blue mixed in with burnt sienna and just a touch of quinacridone violet. Just a touch. Okay, now let me test that color out. Let's see where we stand on that. And put just a touch of a brush full of water in with that. They make it flow. And I know that's going to dry lighter. So I think between the two of these, I'm going to have a nice light gray. Between the cerulean blue mixture. So I'll kind of bring these together now, come up as a combination. So I use cerulean blue a little bit with yellow ochre and a little bit of red, pyro red. And here I mixed the cobalt blue in with burnt sienna and a little bit of quinacridone violet. So I've got a nice light value here, and I like that. And I'm going to test the value one more time. Now put another dash of water. What I did is put water in my brush. I want to get it nice and a little bit lighter. A little bit lighter. Okay, I think that's better. All right, that's a nice light gray. Okay, all right, so that's going to be the lighter part of the sky as far as the clouds go. Now what I'm going to do now is start up here at the top again, and I'm going to start putting in that, I think what I'll do, I'm going to change brushes now too. I'm going to use the quill. The quill it's got a much more, I got a bigger brush. It holds more paint. That way it'll go a little bit faster. I can go ahead and get that in there. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting in that color, that light gray color up here at the top. And you notice I'm leaving a lot of white edges because that's the silver lining I was talking about in the very beginning of the discussion. We're going to have a dark sky, a dark cloudy sky with a silver lining. Okay. Now, as I come down, let's see, I want to go over here to this. I'm going to put this cloud in up here also. This has got a light gray. This is my light gray mix. And you'll notice I'm leaving a lot of white edges here on the cloud. So I'm putting the cloud formation in. The stormy cloud, which is a darker gray than the white of the paper. I'm going to leave a little more white over here in this section. Just leave a little more white in that section, okay? Okay, now I can come along now. Now I can use my, I'm going to use my other brush. I've got another brush here. This is a synthetic brush. And what I can do here, I'm going to smooth out some of the edges. These edges here are now hard. So I'm going back here now. This is a nice thing about the stiffer hairs on the synthetic brush. It gives you a little more control over blending. I'm blending the edge now in with that white paper. I'm blending those hard edges now. So I'm softening the edges now just with a damp brush. Because I don't want hard edges right next to that white paper. So right now I'm softening the edges, and I think you can start seeing it starting to work here on the edge. So this is a little bit of it takes a little bit of practice to do that. I've done a couple other paintings like this, and we'll go through those before the discussion is over today. But now you can see here I'm getting a nice soft edge next to that gray. What I'm doing is just using the corner. I'm using the corner edge of the brush, and I'm blending the edge of that gray, and I'm making sure I save a lot of that white paper, the silver lining which is around the cloud. Okay, now, and then I do this a little bit before it completely dries, because when it dries, you can still blend, but it's a little easier if the paint is still wet. If the paint's still wet, it blends a little easier because it's easier to get the brush to move the paint around. So what I'm doing is just touching the edge of that particular shape of that gray, and I'm blending that edge out. So I'm getting a blended edge now with that, instead of a sharp, hard edge, I'm getting a blended edge of that cloud color. I'm working around, almost finished here on this edge, and get this up here. You can see here, I'm getting a little bit. Now you can leave some hard edges. You don't have to get them all. You can leave some variety there. You can have some hard, and you can have soft edges, maybe a little hard edge. So you can kind of make it mix and match a little bit. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to get into the darker section of the cloud. Let's go back now to the photograph. I want to refer back to the photograph again. Okay. And let me bring it in a little bit dark. Let me bring it a little bit more in here. Okay. You can see that now. You can see up here, it's a lighter gray up here at the top, and it gets darker as I come down into the main part of the cloud. So I get this large dark mass I'm working on right now. Got the lighter sections here. Now I'm going to work on the darker section. There's a little lighter over here too, but really this is the main part of the cloud right down in here. Okay, wanted you to see that. All right, I'm going to take you back to the painting table. All right, so now I'm going to start working on the main part of the cloud. So I'm going to mix up some of that dark blue, dark gray. So I'm going to mix a little bit of ultramarine now. Ultramarine blue. And I'm going to mix a little bit of that. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna in there with ultramarine. Ultramarine, a little bit of burnt sienna, and a touch of Quinancridone violet. It warms it up a little bit. I just don't want a cold blue cloud. I want to make a little bit of warmth in there because the sun is shining through that. And I need a pretty big batch here, so I'm making a large puddle of dark cloud. A little more burnt sienna in with that mix. So now I'm really going to concentrate on the dark part of the cloud. Ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, Gives me a nice mixture and a touch of quinacridone violet. And I make a little bit of Payne's gray, just a touch of Payne's gray to dull it down just slightly. Okay, now let's test this out on my test sheet. I got the light and the medium. Now this is the dark. Let's see the dark. Okay. So you can see this is the light value here. This is the medium value, and now we're getting down to the darker area right here, the darker area, which is ultramarine blue mixed in with burnt sienna and a little bit of quinacridone and a touch of Payne's gray. Okay. What I'm gonna do now is make sure I have plenty of paint here. Just a touch more of that Payne's gray, just a touch more. Okay, I'll put the brush aside. Now I'm going to use my quill brush again because this will cover a lot more area. Load it up. A quill brush is like a round brush. You load it up from the side. You load the brush from the side, rolling the brush through the paint. And over here, I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to lay that in. So I'm going to get that dark color on top of this part of the cloud. And this is where the real rain cloud is. This is the cloudy sky. This is what really came in. And this is what really caught my eye was the contrast between the lights and darks. And it was a very moody, very graphic. It was very graphic look. The dark sky, and it was a beautiful blue sky peeking through, and this wonderful silver lining around the edge. And you look at the photograph, and you look at it. You can use that to help you guide through, but then don't let that be the thing to follow. Just use your own instinct. Now I'm going to use that. I think I'll use the 1/2 inch brush. So take the 1/2 inch brush now with just some water in it, and I'm going to blend this out a little bit. Because again, I don't want too many hard edges inside the middle of the cloud. Now it's okay to put some of that. I'm moving the paint around a little bit because I want some action in the cloud. So I'm moving that paint around just a little bit, especially where they intersect the lights and the darks. Okay. Now also on the edges here next to the whites, I'm using the synthetic brush again. I'm going to get that edge a little bit where it's soft next to that white paper. I'm going to leave some hard edges too because this is where it's dark. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to continue on with the dark mixture. Okay. Got to move ahead now pretty fast. Now there's this cloud formation branches out here over. It gets kind of interesting over here. It's the different shapes and so forth. And so I'm just going to kind of move around here just a little bit. There's some open areas over here, which I'm going to put in. Leave a lot of whites over here showing on this edge of the cloud over here. Let's see. I will come down here now. There's a real this section here in the middle is very, to me, the most critical point. It might be the if you want to call it impact of the painting, this might be the focal point. But as far as the cloud formation goes, this is where the cloud and the sky really get together in this section right here. Load up the brush. And I'm going to use just dragging the brush across there to get those shapes in. Load up the brush again. And down here is another area where the cloud comes right in, meets right down to the base of the ground almost. The cloud goes right down to the bottom where the sky meets the ground. So I'm just kind of inventing this now as I go along. Now I need a little more water in my brush. I got to pick up some more paint now a little bit. A little bit of ultramarine, a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of Payne's gray, a little Quinancridone violet. The same mixture. And this cloud here comes down at the base here. Oop, pick a more Payne's gray. And you don't want all the colors to be exactly the same. I'm mixing a little bit more blue in here with the brown, or with the gray. I want kind of a mixture. Skies are not, and I want to kind of overlap a little bit here where the darker will be darker sections of the cloud. Because there's different layers inside the cloud. They're layers of the cloud formation, layers of moisture and condensation in the air. So it puts out quite a display of different values, lights and darks and medium values. At this stage, it really doesn't make that much difference how you put the paint on there. I'm just putting in strokes, and we'll check the values out when I'm finished with this little section here. But I want to leave lots of white paper because that was the best part of this whole painting, was that the silver lining that came around uh, those patches of blue. I'll mix up a little more. See, I'm running out of paint again. I've got to put in a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of quinacridone violet, a little bit of Payne's gray, a touch of burnt sienna, a little bit of water, Payne's gray. The Payne's gray dulls down the mixture, so you don't have a purple or a brown color in there. You're going to have a more muted picture. Okay. I'm adding a little more pigment here because this has to be the dark area. This is the dark area of the cloud. And the brush you use, it really doesn't matter. You can use a flat brush or a round brush. I just had this quill holds a lot of paint in it, so I'm using it to really cover the paper a lot. And so you can use whatever brush. You should experiment with the brushes you have and see which one works a little bit better for you. I just picked up this brush here because it holds a lot of paint, and I have to move a lot of paint, so that's why I did it this way. Okay, now I'm going to take the half inch natural hair. I'm going to go blend around. I'm going to blend some of these colors together now. A little bit rough edges here. So now I'm going to put a little bit more I'm moving that color around a little bit, and I'm also softening up some of the edges here. Not edges, but the sections inside, and I'm just kind of blending a little bit on the inside here. Smoothing out some of the little rough areas I see. But I want there to be an irregular display here of values because it's going to be lights and darks. There's going to be found edges, lost edges, hard edges, soft edges. It's going to be a combination of all kinds of different things that you can see in the sky to make it believable. So I'm really just adding a little more value here to this darker area. I'm using the natural hair brush to smooth out some of the portions. Now this section down here, really, it wouldn't be much. There's not much really whites down at the bottom here. It was all covered with was a dark sky, and also the clouds were hanging down low. So what I'm going to do is just paint that all in. So the cloud really kind of hung low over the landmass. Okay, let me go through some more. I'm just kind of not smoothing out. I'm just kind of blending some of these edges out a little bit, and adding a little more value here and there. And I can see here, I need to work a little more on the edges. So let me take the synthetic brush, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to smooth out some of these edges. And all I do is just take a damp, I just put a little bit of water in the brush. It's a damp brush. And I go along and I go ahead and I rub the edge of that hard edge section. And what I'm doing, I'm softening up that edge. I want some hard edges, but I don't want everything. I want some soft edges, some hard edges, some lost and found. Kind of smoothing out some of that, those hard edges out. Just kind of blending in the edge with the cloud and with the background paper. And a little bit over here. I think this section here, this little edges here. Smooth those out just a little bit. I'm really protecting that white paper. That white paper really is the stuff you want to save. You save the white paper. This one section over here I can smooth out a little bit. If you get hard edges, it'll bring too much attention to that section. So this section over here is not where I want the eye to go. Okay. All right. Now the background sky, the bottom here is really going to be a landmass. And what I've decided to do is make it into a I don't know, a desert scene or a mountain scene area here. So let me take this color out of the palette. And I'm going to use the natural hair brush here. Use the 3/4 inch natural hair. And I'm going to take some yellow ochre. And I'm going to paint the bottom here. This is going to be, I'm going to start with a base coat of yellow ochre. Just get something in there. So this is really the landmass that I'm coming up with here. It's going to be like a landscape far off. Maybe it could be out in the desert somewhere or some wide open plains with maybe a mountain in the background. So that's what I'm shooting for. A little bit of little wild country here. Yeah, I need some more. Okay, put that yellow ochre across the bottom here just to get a nice coat started. Okay. Now, the yellow ochre also, I'm going to put a lot of water in this now, just a lot of water. I just want a light value, a light value of yellow ochre, very light. And that yellow ochre now, I'm going to put into the clouds a little bit. Down here, the sun is coming through this section right here, so I'm going to put a bit of yellow ochre here at the bottom of this cloud where the white is. I'm going to indicate that there's a little bit of sunlight popping through that section. And over here on these other white areas, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow ochre in here. Change the white a little bit. Put a little color here in the sky because there is a sun shining through this opening right here. So I want to emphasize that. And there might be just a hint up here at the top. Now, I don't want to go too far on this, but there's a little bit of maybe just a touch of ochre, yellow ochre up here, just some of these white areas, just a touch. Just a hint of the sky. Now this white is where the sun's coming through, or the major part of the sun. Okay, I'm not finished down here either. I'm going to mix up a darker color here for what I call the mountains. So I'm going to use a little bit of ultramarine, a little bit of burnt sienna. Make a dark brown mix, dark brown gray. Maybe I'll mix a little bit of quinacridone violet in there, a little bit of I even put a little bit of alizarin crimson in there. Give me a nice dark brown. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put in what I call this is going to be a mountain. So as an artist, you can put in whatever you want to do. And I'm going to put in a mountain. So that's going to be the background. And I think with this real dark area here, because this is in shadow now, the sun is behind the mountains here also. This will give the indication that there's really a large landmass down here with the sun shining through that rainy clouds. Now I want to lighten this up just a little bit. So let me give a little bit of that ultramarine. Okay. And on this side over here, I'm also going to have the landmass is going to continue on. But this section over here will be a little further away, so it won't be quite as dark as this other portion I've just done. I'll make this a little bit lighter. A little more blue into it. It shows that it's way back into the background, way in the background. That's my horizon line. That's the horizon line right there. It's a low horizon. I'll leave that alone. And I'll let that dry for a second. Now I want to go back with my natural hair brush, and I'm going to put in a little burnt sienna. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna. I'm going to put some low shrubbery at the base of the mountain here. I'm going to put some put some brown shrubbery down here just to give it a little touch of something. This will be maybe a bunch of trees or old shrubbery or something down here at the bottom. And a little bit over here. That's still wet over there. Leave that alone for a while. Leave that alone. Okay. And down along here, I'm going to put in some more shrubbery here in this air section. Put down some rough grass, maybe some low bushes. some kind of foliage here on the ground. This is a pretty wide open area. It could be a part of the desert, edge of the desert or something like that. That'd be fine. Okay, I'm gonna pick up a little bit of green. Pick up a little bit of Hooker's green down here. Put a little bit of, as you come forward, of course, colors get a little bit brighter. Not brighter, but a little bit. You can tell colors. You can tell greens and places. I'm gonna put a little dark green in here just to give a change. To show that it's a foreground. Foreground is going to have a little more color in it. A little more color you can recognize. Not too much. Because it's a cloudy day and there's not much light there shining on the ground except from the sun. And I'll finish off this corner over here with a little bit of brown. All the same color everywhere. Yeah, I'll put some more bushes in here. Okay, this section in here now, I want to put another mound. So I'm going to come in here with a closer. This is going to be a darker section, which is in front. So I'll make that look like it's in front of everything else. Make it a little bit darker. And that's going to point toward the section I want you to look at. That point right there will point toward that section. Everything in the painting should have a reason. Everything should have a little bit of reason why you put it in there. And that's why I put that in there. It'll point toward the section I want you to look at. I'll put a little more brown over here now. It's dried up a little bit more, so I'll put a little more brown in there. And I want to darken this up. This burnt cyan's a little bit too bright, so I'll dull it down put a little bit of blue with it. A bit of blue on top of that kind of cools it down. Put something at the base of this little hill here. There's a little hill here in the foreground, toward the foreground here. This is really the middle ground. And over here, I'm going to just put a little more. This is a little bit too light now, so just put just a glaze. I'm just glazing over top of this. Just glaze it with a little bit of paint, just to knock that back into the background there. Okay. Okay, now let me dry this. No, I'm not quite finished with that. Let me see. I'm going to take a little bit of. I'll take a little bit of. Let's see. I've got a little bit of ultramarine on my natural hair brush. I'm sure it's all. I don't want to get any other color in it. Just ultramarine. So I'll wash out the brush. Rinse it out in a rinse bucket. Tap it off with it on the sponge. Pick up ultramarine, just ultramarine. Okay, now I'm going to go in here now and put that color in here. Because that's the faraway sky. That ultramarine is a faraway sky. So that's why I'm emphasizing that. Okay. Trying to separate the sky, a little bit of sky color with the cloud color. So that blue will do that. That blue will keep me thinking of the sky. And on top of that, I want to put a little more of my cloud color. Let's see it. Let me dry that before I put a little more cloud in there. So let me dry this up a little bit. I'm gonna put the dryer on, blow dryer. So finishing up the painting now. And this is the last stage. I did the sky first, blue sky, then I put the dark clouds in. I left the white areas. There's one more step, which is going to be, I think, the creme de la creme. But right now, I'm just kind of making sure this is nice and dry. Okay, it's drying up. And I'm going to take a little bit more, I'm going to take a little bit more of my dark cloud mix, which is ultramarine, mixed in a little bit of Payne's gray, a little bit of burnt sienna, and quinacridone violet. I don't want to get too dark though. I'm getting carried away. Rinse out my brush. I don't need very much here, but I made a big patch here, but I'm going to use some of it anyway. It needs to be gray. So I don't want to get any blue in it or any red in it. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, okay. Always test it out on a piece of paper before you do anything like that. So now I'm just going to go in there and just kind of go over this section here now to knock the cloud, bring the cloud forward now. So I'm putting a little darker value down here at the base of this cloud now to bring it forward. And I'm kind of blending the edge there with the sky because it's kind of blending together. Okay, let me dry it again because I just put wet paint on there. So I'll dry this out. Okay, it's coming on. The sky worked blended very nicely in with the cloud. If you can't tell where the cloud and the sky starts is where it ends. That's what I want. Okay. Yeah. This way you don't want to see where the cloud starts and ends. You just want all to come together, to kind of meld together. The sky and the cloud are dark together. Okay, the last stage now is to put in there's the sun is behind this cloud, so I want to show some streaks coming through the cloud. And this is the whole thing. Now, I've tried several methods. I tried erasers to take off the paint. It does a partial job, but it doesn't do what I want. I've used several erasers. I even used the old school eraser with a number two pencil. Okay, so I tried different methods, and I found the best one that works is I've used the charcoal white pencil. So what I'm going to do is to draw in some streaks here to indicate the sun coming through the cloud there and hitting down onto the landscape. So this is just a charcoal pencil, and the sun peeking through those cloud areas. Okay, that's all I wanted to show. That's what I saw. If you look at the picture, and I'll show the picture again before we leave. If you see the picture, you'll see those streaks coming through the cloud. And I didn't want to use. I tried lifting, but lifting takes off too much. And you can take your finger to rub and kind of blend in the chalk in with the background. You don't want too many defined lines. You just want to show indicate. Now you can make a couple real dark ones, a little more pressure, show the streaks coming through. But then you can get carried away. And you can always knock it down a little bit by rubbing on it. Okay. All right. I want to put a mat around this one. Let's take a look at it. Okay, cloudy skies. That's the name of this painting, Cloudy Skies. Okay, I did this one here today live, and I think it turned out very good. it's a real challenge to get the edges, leave the edges white, leave those edges white, because there's a silver lining. Now I did another one a couple days ago for practicing. Here's another one. It turned out about the same way. With a nice dark matte around it, it also shows off very nicely. Yeah. Okay. So it takes practice to get those. Now here's a more gentle one. I'll show you one more. It takes practice to get the not only the colors, but also, now here's a more gentle strokes of the sky coming in. I think you can see that. So there are three different versions of the same painting, looking very similar, but differences are there, of course. And I think today worked out even good. I think today worked out. I like the blue, the way the blue came in there, and the way the streaks and so forth. All right, let's go to my main camera. Well, I like to wrap that one up by just saying that if you've ever seen a nice stormy sky with clouds and dark, and you often wonder, how can I paint that? Well, take some pictures. Take a couple pictures of it. Take a look at it. Maybe do a quick drawing. Do a little thumbnail sketch about where you think the interesting parts are. And then get your paintbrush out and your paper, and then try some. Today, I gave you a lesson on how to get the background sky in, and leaving those silver linings there of the white cloud. And then go for it. Go for the darks and the lights. Mix up your blues and grays, and have a good time. And post it on my Facebook page. I'd like to see how you do. So for those of you that are watching, give me a thumbs up and give me a like, and also recommend my videos to your friends or to anyone interested in art. And I'll see you next week on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Also, I may be a surprise next week. I'm getting another area ready to go, and hopefully I'll be broadcasting from a different location. But we'll find out. You'll find out next week, and maybe it'll be a surprise for both of us. So until next week, we'll see you then. Bye.